let's get set up on the old YouTube. Where's my live stream? Come on, YouTube, you can do it. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Excellent stuff. We have got Mr. Rawl in the workshop. Good morning, Simon. And well done with getting that injector out. Good job, mate. Simon says, good morning, Andy and crew. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bacon. Would be nice, to be fair. Mrs. Mechanic is probably still in bed, to be honest. Oh, we've got lots of adverts. Jeez, go away, adverts. JJ, morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, JJ. Virginian Governor, good evening, Andy and crew. How is everybody doing? Well, it's not been a bad week. This week I've been doing single day trips to do visits, as I have many still to do before the end of the year. So I was away on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were all visit days, and I got 5 done in 4 days. Yes. And then Friday was a mad panic admin stroke meeting day. It's bogged down by meetings as always. Now, so many. What the hell's going on here? Right, there we are. It's better. The real Daz03. Morning, Andy and crew. Morning, Daz. Welcome back. Hope you're all good, matey. Now then, let's have a look. Daniel Beddle, how you all doing? Question mark. Been a long while. It has, Daniel. Yes, welcome back, sir. Hope your projects are going well. So yesterday, it wasn't raining, which was nice. The weather is just starting to turn now. We're going well into spring. And we got back on doing the platform for Mrs. Mechanic's shed. Maybe I can show you some pictures, actually. She took some pictures yesterday. Just bear with me. I can maybe show you on my phone. Yes, there we go. Look. So that's pretty much as far as we got yesterday. Sorry, it's not an overview shot. We've built a platform with 16 posts set into the ground. Another picture there, look. Ready for the moving of the old silver shed, the shed we used to keep the air compressor in. That's now been moved. We had to move it to do Ben's workshop. It was in the way. And it's going to be the potting shed. Yes. Now, the steel shed, it's not in great condition. It's pretty old, but it's still quite dry. The roof's actually not bad. So rather than destroy it, we thought, well, we'll repurpose it. We'll build a platform, do it properly, and Mrs. Mechanic can have it as a potting shed. And then at some point in the future, I'll build a timber shed in sections, ready, and then we'll do a swap. We'll get rid of the tin shed because it looks a bit crap, to be fair. Aesthetics of the garden, you know. And then we'll pop up a nice timber frame shed, double doors, and a nice, what do you call it? But it's a felt roof like we used to have in England, but each of the felts are in separate pieces. I don't know the name. That's the kind of shed I had when I was a kid. Mum bought me it, you know, birthday present. Here you go, son. You're 13. Here's your first shed. Brilliant birthday present. Thanks, Mum. They even put me power in there and everything. I could even, in fact, I was welding there when I bought a first stick welder when I was about the same age, maybe 14. And I set the shed on fire. Yes, I did. There was a burn mark on the floor, and I had to put a piece of hardboard over it to try and hide it. Yes, great fun. So no, we're doing all right. We've just started. If I can get it on there, yes, we've just started putting the smaller support beams in there. I don't know what you call them. Those bits. We did 2 yesterday, then we decided to call it a day because the bugs were biting. And we've still got lots more to do. There's 2 per square, 9 squares, 8 squares, 16 more to go. We've got enough timber. And this is a critical part to this this project, is we've just got to use up whatever timber we've got left after doing Ben's workshop. And then when I come to do the side port, and that's the next project, is to put the roof on the side port. The upright posts are already in. They just need cutting off to the right height. But I'm going to get a laser level for that. So I'm saving up for that. Plus, of course, I want to save up for the timber, because timber's not cheap, to be honest. Although saying that, here in New Zealand, 2 wood yards now have closed. And they say they've closed because of the increased cost of electricity. And there's been a few other businesses closed down because of that as well. Electric bills here are ridiculous. Our bill last month was 550 New Zealand dollars. And I'm not in the workshop every day, right? I'm only here now and again on the weekend, and we're not doing that much stuff in the workshop at the moment. We've been outside, doing the deck. Sure, we're charging a few batteries for rechargeable tools, but I'm not using the MIG. I'm not using the plasma cut. I'm not using anything of any, substantial draw. So our bills have gone up significantly, and it should have gone down because we're heading into spring, and we're not using the heaters quite so much in the house. So anyway, cost of living is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And salaries just not keeping up. They really are not keeping up. A lot of people are struggling at the moment. There's a lot more crime here in New Zealand as well, because of it. I think it's one of the reasons, maybe, but there's definitely a lot more crime going on. Richard Perry, GB flag thumbs up. Morning, Richard. Morning, Andy and crew. Hope all are well. Yeah, I'm not bad. Not bad at all. I'm not knackered. I live in a state of being a little bit tired. And of course, last night, an hour less, right? Well done for getting to the live stream on time. I surprised myself. I was in the workshop for about 5 to 8. Got up at 7. Takes me a while to get ready, sorry. And then it was a mad panic, really, to get all the bikes out of the workshop because they're all in the garden. They can't be on the camera. We all know that. So they're all outside, including Alan's Triumph, which is not looking very nice at the moment. It's been rained on many, many times. Sorry, Alan, the way it is. And it was sort of a reasonably leisurely sort of setup period. I wasn't panicking, although I did nearly miss the start. I was busy reading some stuff on Facebook. Now then, sorry, Richard, I missed your one earlier on. Connor K, morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Connor. Welcome back, sir. Hope all is well over in your neck of the world. Now then, where else do we get to? Simon, shame bikes don't come in plywood crates anymore. You've had a free floor. Yes, the floor. What we've done, as you saw, the framework, the shed is approximately 3 meters by 3 meters. It's not massive, but we've made the framework 4.5 by 4.5, which will give us a bit of a deck at the front, in front of the doors, perfect for loading and moving things around and getting in and out, and also 1.5 meters down one side, where Mrs. Mechanic in the summertime we can put what we call a sail here in New Zealand. Basically a sheet that's on posts independent of the shed, to give her a bit of shade, and I'm going to put possibly a railing around it because I don't want it falling off, because it's probably about 2.5, maybe 2 foot, 2.5 foot off the ground at the highest point, which is not ideal, because our garden slopes terribly. So yes, so she's have a bit of a deck on one side, so she can put a chair and a little table on there and sit there and have a morning coffee in the summertime. And of course, we've got the bit around the front for loading as well. So a bit more work, but the actual floor surface will be official decking planks. I know, a bit of a waste in the shed, Andy, I know. But she's going to use it as a potting shed, and having it as a deck where we can have little gaps between the planks, maybe, 5 mil or something. When she sweeps the floor, it just falls through the gaps. Perfect. And of course, for the deck area, it'll look like a deck. I was looking at deck plank thickness, and there's 2 options here in New Zealand. One is about 18 millimeters, pretty flimsy, and the other one is I think 38 millimeters. So we're going to go for the 38 because I know that shed, certainly initially, because it's not going to be full-blown potting shed straight away. Ben's still got a lot of stuff to store, so half will be Ben's storage and half will be the development of the potting shed table with a mesh area and a little drawer. So when she's doing her potting, I'm not a gardener, doing her potting in the plant pots, the overspilled dirt will fall through the mesh into the drawer, pull the drawer out, tip it back in your bucket, recycle, i.e. there's no waste. It's just nice and quick and easy. So that's something else that I have to build a nice workbench in there for her. And we'll put some. Ben's got a little bit of ply left from his walls. We'll ply her side of the wall so she can hang up some of her little tools and stuff. And it should be quite nice, I think. It's got one panel in the roof, which is like a skylight, needs a clean. And it's got one window, which definitely needs a clean. One of those Louvre windows. All the glass slats are still there, which is great. Survived the move. Hopefully it'll survive the next move. But they do need a really good clean. Mr. Mechanic will do that. So yeah, it's coming on. And one of the worst things about tin sheds is they have tin slidey doors, you know, 2 separate slidey doors. They're crap. The runners are all flogged out. The doors are bent. You know, it's been used as a storage shed. We didn't really care about it because it was old and we knew it was going to go at some point. So the plan is to put a wooden frame in there and make 2 nice wooden doors. And what we'll do is we'll reuse those doors when it comes to building the timber shed. So it won't be wasted effort. And it'll look a lot nicer anyway, and be a bit more secure as well, because there'll be a lawnmower and other bits and pieces in there which we've got to try and protect. Not the easiest thing in the world these days. Now, lots of comments. Michael Managu, is that right? Michael Managu? Sorry, Manabagu. Sorry. Morning, Andy. Don't recognise the flag, but I do get a thumbs up. Good man. Well done. Welcome to the workshop, mate. Don't recognise your name, so you must be the first. Must be first visit. This isn't quite like my videos, all right? So don't think it is. This is just a live stream. Andy having a chat with his mates, and a bit of camaraderie, and you get a chance to ask questions. That's what it's all about. The videos totally different. It's a bit more about fixing stuff, and Andy making mistakes and how we get out of those problems, and hopefully end result fixed. That's the plan, but it doesn't always happen. This is real life stuff. Now then, Virginia Governor Simon rules. What? Anyway, Virginia, you can use old pallets for the timber. Yes, Ben does a lot of that. He repurposes. He goes around Auckland every now and again with his ute, which is now back on the road. It passed the warrant. Good story coming up, actually. And he just loads up with pallets, takes them home, chops them up with firewood, or if there's some good bits of timber on there. And sometimes you get the odd hardwood pallet, which are brilliant. There's a shelf just over there, actually. I used a couple of bits of hardwood pallet, which are really nice. Really, really nice. So that was a real score for him. Otherwise, he brings them down here, and he just loads the garden up with pallets, because as you know, Trevor the tractor's got the forks. So we try to palletize everything. In fact, we even palletized the cement mixer the other day. We did. I was getting fed up with lifting the cement mixer onto its stand. And of course, Ben's not here, so we used Trevor the tractor. A reasonably easy task, but a task. And I thought, hang on a minute. If we put the stand, bolt it down to a pallet, then the cement mixer can stay on the stand all the time, and we can just move it around with Trevor. Perfect. So another pallet. So there's probably 50 things that are palletized here around the garden now. And one of the things that we did was plant pots. Palletize the plant pots. Just put your plant pots on the pallet, and then when you want to move the plant pots to mow the lawn, you can just pick it up with the Trevor, move it somewhere else, cut the grass, bring it back, pop it back on the garden. I know it's a pallet, and it looks just like a pallet, and some people don't want pallets in the garden, but it doesn't bother me. It's just a timber frame that serves a function, and they're really well designed. Whoever came up with palletization, a bit like containerization, deserves a pat on the back. Makes life a lot easier. Pete Woodfine. Hi, Andy and crew. Good morning, Pete. Welcome back, sir. Connor K. Wondering about the power in New Zealand. How is the majority of electricity being generated? Very good question. Okay. So normal electric, as the government would say, is produced by renewable sources. We've got wind power. Not far from here, we've got a hydroelectric dam. There are lots of hydroelectric dams in New Zealand. It rains a lot, and we've got rugged terrain, steep, so you get lots of water flow. Perfect. Unfortunately, the dams, they're pretty old. I mean, this one was built, the nearest one was built back in the 50s, I think it was, long time ago, and they're getting a little bit run down, to be fair. I don't know what the lifespan of a dam is. It's going to run out one day. Be interesting when it breaks, but anyway. The wind power, very expensive to put up, but there's lots of them around because it's pretty windy in New Zealand most days, especially on the hills. And what else? We don't really have solar power much in New Zealand. Houses do; they have their own, but there's not really any. I've not come across a solar farm yet, to be fair. So all of that's going on in the background. It happens most of the time. It's great. However, power consumption has soared, partly because of EVs, right? We're using electric as opposed to fuel and petrol and diesel. So demand for electricity has gone up through the roof, and they kept one coal-fired power station called Huntley in the town of Huntley. Yes, starts with a H, not with a C. Okay, Huntley. I call it something else whenever I go through, but anyway, because it's a shithole. It really is. Sorry, if you live in Huntley, my sincere apologies, but it's not a place for me. And you don't want to stop. It's one of those places where you make sure your windows are up and you keep on trucking. If you're on the motorway, it's not, stay high or it's not a problem. If you're on the old back roads going through the town, guards at the banks, armed guards. Well, are they armed? Probably not. But anyway, guards at the banks, that kind of stuff. It's not the best place in the world by a long way. So the Huntley power station, coal-fired. We don't mine coal here in New Zealand anymore. They've closed all the mines down for whatever reason. Obviously, there were a few accidents. We're not going to go into that. So now they decide, the only way they can fight or run that coal power station is to import the coal. So we get coal from probably China, I don't know, some far, far away land. They import it in. It's nowhere near as good as the coal we used to have. Gives off lots more emissions, and it's very expensive. Huntley Power Station, on its own, this puts it in perspective. It's that big. It can produce 50%, or it can produce the same amount of power as all of the. This is how I understand it. It could be wrong. All of the power, and this is a few years ago. All of the power that the renewable energy sources here in New Zealand could produce. So basically, it gives them it doubles the power capacity of the grid. And normally, years ago, they'd just fire it up every now and again as a boost. Maybe a hydroelectric dam had gone down, or that it was getting refurbished and new turbines and stuff. And they were a bit down on power, so they'd fire up Huntley. And I don't know if there's a number of different sections to the Huntley station where they can just run one station, one bit, or whether they have to run the whole thing or nothing. I don't know how it works. But what I will say is Huntley Power Station has been in regular use now for the last couple of years. So it's now contributing to the grid on a regular basis, which tells us there really isn't enough power in the grid as they planned, because they were going to decommission Huntley eventually. That was the plan. So New Zealand is absolutely brilliant at marketing New Zealand as being 100% sustainable, super environmentally friendly, blah, blah, blah. I've lived here now 15 years, and it isn't. It really isn't. It's not very friendly to the environment. I mean, when we lived up in Auckland, we'd only moved here for a couple of years. They're really good on their recycling, right? They give you all these different bins, and you got to sort all your stuff out. And the same goes here, right? You sort all your stuff out, you put it out, and it disappears. And one day, we were out for a drive. It was probably a weekend. And we were in an area of Auckland where we were just exploring, and we found this like little island that had a bridge to it, big, long, sort of motorway style bridge. But why? So we drove down and realized it was a tip, and we it was, the ocean was around it and stuff. So we thought, we'll pull up and have some lunch down there. It didn't smell. It was all right. And it was a nice view of the airport. So we thought we'll have some lunch. And we saw, obviously, rubbish trucks going in, full, coming out, empty. And then we started to realise that they're not all rubbish trucks. A lot of them were recycling trucks. There's no recycling plant down there, or there wasn't at the time. This is going back probably 12 years. There's no recycling plant. It's just a landfill. They've basically dug out this entire island and they're chucking all the rubbish in it. And so I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that New Zealand only has about 50% capacity to recycle the recycling. Your glass bottles and your plastic bottles and other whatever it is, paper, whatever. And the rest of it goes into landfill. So all the population, all they're doing is, sorting out, spending time washing out the jars, washing out the plastic bottles, doing all of that stuff, thinking, ooh, I'm saving the environment. Whereas it's a 50-50 chance whether that stuff gets recycled and then back into the system, or it just gets buried. And at that point, me and Mrs. Mechanic, we sort of really lost faith. We thought we'd been duped. We thought, well, really, what is the point? This is just ridiculous. And more recently, the rules around recycling are so complicated that you just give up. For example, a plastic bottle has to have its lid removed. Fair enough, we can do that. If the item of recycling is less than, I think it's less than 50 millimeters in diameter, it can't be recycled. Really? You got to measure every piece. This is just getting beyond the joke. So Mrs. Mechanic does still put the recycling out, but the number of items that get rejected are becoming a real pain in the ass. They really are. It's almost not worth bothering. It's becoming, if Mrs. Mechanic worked a full-time job and she was trying to fit all that stuff in her own time, she wouldn't bother. We just wouldn't bother. She'd put it in a bin bag and it'd go out for the rubbish. Simple as that. In fact, it'd go down to the tip because I take a lot of the stuff to the tip probably once a month. Load up Larry the carry, go for a little pootle, off we go. Oh, Larry failed the warrant. He failed the warrant on an inner rack end, we call it here in New Zealand. So you've got the steering rack, you've got the inner ball joints, and you've got the outer ball joints. It failed on the driver's side inner ball joint. Bit knocky knock when you were driving. So I've yet to fix that. I've got to source a ball joint, inner ball joint, and fit it. So a video coming up on that in the next few weeks. Where did we get to with this? I think it all started with electricity. So my apologies, huge rabbit hole, but some information about New Zealand. If you're going to come and live here, don't expect all your recycling to get recycled and expect your recycling to be an absolute pain in the ass. There you go. Oh, rant over. Now, hang on a minute. Where do we get to? Simon, for James, I have a small shed sat on pallets for keep the ground. Hang on pallets for keep the ground. English, Simon. Going to need some pallet racking soon. I bet you are. Yes, I am for sure. There's pallets down the bottom of the garden. There are pallets everywhere. There's even a pallet because I got given a dozen. They're not potato boxes. So a potato box is a palletized wooden box that you put potatoes or other vegetables in if you're a farmer and you grow that kind of stuff, and that's how you store them. Okay. These are not those. I thought that they were, but they're not. Doesn't matter. They were free. They're actually display boxes for in shops, a bit like B&Q. We call it the warehouse and Mitre 10 and that kind of thing. They often use palletized wooden boxes to display things for sale, and they usually put a false floor in it so it's not completely full. It just, and they can move them around really easily with a pallet truck. So I got given a dozen of these, and the sides, there's like wooden frames, and there's 5 or 6, and they all stack on each other, so you can vary the height. Some of them you can make really, really deep, others you can have quite shallow. I've kept them all with about 5 or 6 sides on them, and we've filled them with crap because we just don't have enough storage. Put a tarpaulin over it, ratchet strap the tarpaulin on, stick it down the garden. And there's 12 of them down there. One of them's full of wood. We've not had a coal fire or a wood fire this year, so it's full of all the little bits of cut-offs and stuff, so that'll get burnt maybe next winter. Who knows? We may never have another fire. I don't know. So yes, the garden's full. Pallet racking would be great, but we're going to build a big shed down there, and then we're going to sort through all the stuff, and probably chuck out a lot of stuff that we don't need. But it's down there for now, out of the way. I wouldn't say out of sight because it's not. It's pretty obvious it's down there, but it's away from normal area of usage. Now then, hey, Wade Mayer. Howdy, Andy and crew. Good morning, Wade. Welcome back, sir. Welcome to this the little chilly workshop at the moment. It's not over warm this morning. We're a bit of a cold spell recently. I don't mind because it's not raining. That's the important thing. Because if it's raining, we can't really do the timber work outside. We've done a little bit in the rain, but it's not fun. And it doesn't do the power tools any good. Now, Simon, I say switch to the power station. Switch the power station from coal to burn EVs instead. Now that, Simon, is one of the best things you've ever said. Yes, it could be like a drive-through. You could actually, you could almost, not tell people that are driving their EVs. It could just be a car park, free parking. In you come. Oh, it's getting a bit warm. I'll just turn up the AC. Oh, what's all these flames? Done. Problem solved. No more EVs, and of course, the market gets thinned out a little bit. I'm not going to say too much because somebody's going to say, Andy, you can't do that. That's really bad. But, obviously there'll be a little exit where they can jump out and egress door, I think they call it in New Zealand. If they can read English, then they can use the door. I'm now in big trouble for Mrs. Mechanic. She's going to give some grief later on. But good call, Simon. I like that. There's lots of EV. In fact, Mrs. Mechanic noticed the other day there is a shit ton of EVs on the road here in New Zealand now. I see them on a regular basis. A lot of them are white ones. Maybe white paint's cheaper, I don't know. But there's a lot of them that are white. Maybe it keeps the car a bit cooler so you don't use the AC so much. So therefore you're not using the battery quite so much. Don't know. Could be a ploy by the engineers to try and justify that extra few kilometers of range. Who knows? Peat Woodfine. That happens here in the UK too, really. I know some of our recycling, and we were watching a documentary a couple of years ago actually, some of our recycling, depending on what it is, does get containerized, or it used to do, and shipped to China. I think it was. Our rubbish was being shipped all the way to China and recycled in China. On a boat ship. On a ship that burns a shit ton of diesel. I mean, really, that's even worse in my opinion. It's just unbelievable what goes on. Just to tick the box and say we're doing our best for recycling. No, all we're doing is moving the problem somewhere else and paying through the nose for it. Now then, Chopper's Rule 1. G'day, mate. Terrible accent, sorry, I just couldn't resist. Good morning, Chopper's Rule 1. Welcome back to the workshop. Hope your weekend is going well. The Giant. No difference in South Africa. And we only had coal power stations. The newer power stations break down more often than the older power stations. Quality, right? Quality of build, design, the strive for efficiency. Everything becomes a little bit small, weedy, not as durable. We've seen it in many other products, so maybe that's the same thing. Or they're just not paying as much for the power stations and they're getting, they're going for the lowest tender. Who knows what it is? But yeah, you're right. Things are not as reliable as they used to be, whether it's a power station or a car, to be fair. Pete Woodfine, combi trainers. Brilliant, combi trainers. What's a combi trainer? I have no idea. Sorry, Pete. Connor K. I don't know if it's still done, but years ago, shippers receivers would replace the wood floors in cargo containers, depending on the cargo to be loaded into empty containers. Some decent lumber. Yeah, I remember the container that we got that came to New Zealand, one of them, well, the one we had to unpack, that had a wooden floor in it. And there was some labeling on the outside to say what type of wood had been used, and it was all certified, because New Zealand get really worried about wood-based bugs coming into the country, chompy chomp chomp bugs and stuff, and it was all done properly. But yeah, it's really good timber, really good timber. You're right there. Be nice to have had some of that for the potting shed for sure. Connor K, Ben might want to check around exporter yards. Yeah, I'll mention that to him. That's a good idea. I mean, we were very lucky to get the timber that we got. It wasn't tannalized timber. It wasn't preserved timber. It was just normal stuff, which was surprising, really. But remember all the timber that we got for the workstations? That came from a big printing press that came to New Zealand. And it was big ass timber. 5 tons it weighed, I was told, by Brandon from Tame Tools. He gave me it all. Nice chap. Thank you, Brandon, again. The workstations, by the way, are absolutely phenomenal. They're brilliant. They're so useful. And they just work. It's so very dedicated design. I like what we did. A lot of work involved, but they came out great. Make my life so much easier. And no more backache from working at a stupid little desk. That's a win for me because my back's pretty shot these days. Choppers Rule 1. I'm today's drive south of my town visiting my dad. Oh, you're driving on the roads. Well, watch out for all the numpties because, well, if it's anything like New Zealand, on a Sunday, probably your Saturday, but on a Sunday, it seems that a lot of drivers are in a significant rush to get to somewhere. And they tend not to adhere to any of the speed limits, and they do really stupid overtaking on a Sunday. I don't know why. Something has set off my hay fever. I don't know what it is. I'll have another cigarette to hopefully quash that problem. And then we'll get the pie put in. How long have we been going? In fact, let's put the pie in now. 32 minutes in of the pie for today. Here we go. It is. Only ever done one of these before. I love pies. That's the brand. And it's an Angus beef steak and rosemary. Angus beef steak and rosemary. We've not done it before. We've done one of their pies before. Can't quite remember what it is. Might have been a mince. Beef, mince and mozzarella, I think it was, but I could be wrong. My memory's not as good as it used to be. And it says here, no palm oil, no added MSG or preservatives, no artificial flavours or colours. Made in New Zealand. Pastry made with New Zealand butter. This should be a good pie, I think. Right. I don't remember what the last one scored, but we will find out. Can I actually even get into it? I don't know. Nice box, by the way. I love pies, people. Very well presented. I do like the presentation. They stack well. They're really, really obvious in the supermarket. And these did come from a New World supermarket in Cambridge, actually. Cambridge, this one came from. Right, there we go. Look, it's also in a bag, obviously, a sealed bag. It's not a perforated bag. So we'll get it out of the bag and we'll take a quick look at the structural integrity. Okay, here we go. Right. Bom, 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 bom. Bom, bom, bom. It's coming out. Right, we'll save the bits. Okay, so first of all, the lid. And it's got a heart on it. Honestly, they really like their branding, don't they? Good job, people. Not a particularly manly pie, though, to be fair. You'd eat that bit first, wouldn't you? If you were somewhere eating this pie, you'd be like, that's where I'm going to eat first. I'm not going to eat a pie with a heart on it. That's not very manly. Right. Okay. Looking around, the structure looks absolutely spot on. Look at that. You can tell this pie wasn't made in China. Right. Did I say that out loud? There you go. Look, brilliant. Okay, so to the pie warmer. Turn you around. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Okay, here we go. Dum 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 dum. Turn it around so you can see that. Nice. Right. No, I haven't cleaned it. I haven't. It's got a lot of shrapnel. Look at the state of that now. Terrible, isn't it? Right, so we'll stick that in there. Oh, did you see that? The lid is free at one end, so we'll have to start at that point, won't we? At one end. How do you have an end on a circle, Andy? Right. Okay, there we go. 23 minutes. It's been in the fridge, so we're all good to go. Looking forward to eating that one for sure. Now, I love pies. Where was it? Can you see the I love pies thingy somewhere? Where is it? I love pies. Herbert's, Ronnie's. Oh, I love pie. Yeah. Oh no, I was wrong. I love pies, Angus steak and ale. There's one. Got 89. Not a particularly good score. Any more? I love pies. I love pies. I love pies. No, not down there. Have a look. Oh, here we go. I love pies, Angus beef, mince, and mozzarella. Angus beef mince. This one isn't mince, so we haven't done it, and it hasn't got mozzarella in it. 100. So it did. That one did really well. Any more? No. So we've done 2. How cool is that? Any down here in the wall of shame? Dum 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 Irvins. I don't expect to see any down here, to be honest, because these are pretty shit. Sorry if you made one of these pies, people, but yeah, they were crap. They don't deserve to be on the real wall of pies. Okay, so we'll save that rather than empty it out. We'll keep the box. We'll need that for later on. Okay, turning around. We give a quick pan of the workshop. All right, so there's stuff going on. Boom, 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 boom. Not a lot of stuff really, but we're getting there slowly. I'll do it slowly because otherwise YouTube gets very upset. Now, you always think, Andy, your workshop's always empty. What's going on? You never seem to have much stuff in there. Well, all the motorbikes and quad bikes have to go outside when I'm filming because a lot of them are of a particular brand that is not allowed under any circumstances, and it will be penalty by death if they showed up on any of my videos. And I've had some close calls. I really have. There's been a few almost semi-breaches going on, but I don't think anyone's noticed. So we've got away with those. And, you know, I've got to take all reasonable precautions. We all make mistakes, right? And, you know, I don't think that they'd be justified in taking my life, really, for leaving a can of spray lube on the shelf made by a certain brand. It'd be ridiculous. Okay. Where do we get to? I think combi trailers could be containers. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to work it out. Containers are brilliant. They are absolutely amazing. I did watch a documentary on the origins of the shipping container. Very interesting, actually. How it all started out. I think it was a guy that had a fleet of trucks, was moving stuff around, and he realized that if the body on the back of the truck could be movable, you could take it off and put it on, it could be loaded without the truck being there. And that meant his trucks were on the road more, earning more money. And then it sort of evolved from that. Obviously, the original design was very different, but the design of the container has stayed the same. Once it got up to spec, you know, it's pretty much stayed the same. There's many different versions, but they all use the same fastenings, and they're all there's a number of different sizes, but they're all set sizes. They all stack together and stuff. Very clever, a bit like Lego bricks, really. Very clever. Simple, but very effective. You know, there's minimizes the handling time. That's the important thing, isn't it? And damage to goods and that kind of thing. Right, where do we get to? Pete Woodford. Oh, here we are. So Pete Woodford, combi trainers or combis, then storage and display cages on. Oh, sorry, mate. And display cages on wheels definitely do a good job. Yes. Oh, yes. I like to have everything on wheels. So the only things that are not on wheels in this workshop are the three. No, that bench is on wheels. That bench is on wheels. This one, the big bench, is not on wheels because we didn't have any casters that were strong enough. The bench weighs so much, it's just ridiculous. Moving it around, not that we've ever moved it since it came into this workshop, but bringing it down we didn't have Trevor the tractor at the time, is an absolute nightmare. I don't think Trevor would even lift it. It's that heavy. But these came out of an old shipping yard, these 2 benches. They didn't come from England. I couldn't. In fact, to be fair, the benches I had in the UK were all, apart from one that I made, all of them were hand-me-downs. You know, off my dad's old garage, that kind of thing. They weren't anything like these ones. These are so well built. They're all different, and they could be better. I mean, this big bench tends to flap around a bit in the middle. It could do with some bars going across. And one day, if it ever gets pulled out, I'll put those extra bars in there to stiffen it up, because it's not dead flat. It bows a bit in the middle, which makes fabrication a bit iffy, to be fair. So I need to sort that out one day. But it's just too big for me to move around on my own, especially nowadays. Jeez. And it's got the air compressor on. Eventually, when we get the side port built, there's going to be a shed at the end of the side port, basically, that mirrors a mirror image of Ben's workshop on the other side. And in there will be all the air compressors. There'll be the sandblasting cabinet, and what else? Oh, all the woodworking stuff. So the woodworking, the planer, which we used yesterday actually. Had to make a rail for in one of our wardrobes. We've got some like walk-in wardrobe things. I say walk-in, they're like tiny, but they're like a cupboard in the bedroom. And I think when we were refurbishing the house, we must have taken the wooden rails out for hanging up your clothes. So Mrs. McKay said, "Oh, really need a rail in there. This is getting ridiculous." So I said, "Right, first job, Saturday morning, let's make a rail." So perfect size piping, super strong. I used a bit for the go-karts. I've used, sorry, Jared, used a bit of that. 1,354 millimeters long, out of a 6 meter length. There's still plenty left in stock. And then I thought, well, I can't paint it because it's only mild steel. Can't paint it because whenever you move the hangers around, it'll chip the paint off, and then your clothes will get covered in paint. That'll be dumb. So I thought, how am I going to do this? I had some conduit spare, some orange conduit. So I thought, perfect. We'll split it down the middle and push it over the top. My plan was originally to pop rivet it into place, but I realized there was no need to do that. And now we've got probably the world's strongest clothes rail in the wardrobe. And it's brilliant. It's got this lovely super low coefficient of friction surface to it. It looks very industrial. It's so strong. Mrs. Mechanic even she hung off it yesterday. She just gripped hold of it and did a little pull-up. And I say a little pull-up. And I joke. And it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So we're going to do exactly the same. There's 2 cupboards, two wardrobe things. We'll do the same on the other one as well. She was very impressed, although it looks incredibly commercial with it being orange for the conduit. But it works, right? If it works, it's not stupid. And it was free. And we had everything in stock to do it. And it didn't take long to make. It was good. And it fit perfectly. Absolutely bang on. Very happy. Oops. So it's helped to tidy up the bedroom immensely because it was getting a bit messy in there. Now, where do we get to? For Giants, Andy, do you have a pie? Yes, I'm a bit behind in the comments. Sorry, for Giants. The pie is in the pie warmer. And we're just going to wait for the ping. Be about another 15 minutes or so. Choppers Rule 1. It's Sunday here in Australia. Australia. Oh, you're in Australia. Sorry, mate. I forgot where you are. In Australia. I'm in Hervey Bay. Just took the dog for a walk. Nice. Marmite's get a bit old for walking around these days. She does go on walks, but not many because she tends to sleep for the next 24 hours if she goes for a walk. She's a cross with a fox terrier and a Jack Russell. She's done really well. And I think we worked out she's 14 human years, which works out to be doggy years of about 98 or something. So she's nearly 100 years old. Which is pretty good for a dog, to be fair. Do people still use that 7-year rule? I was told that when I was a kid. But she's getting really tired, very lethargic most of the time. Every now and again, if she's had a coffee, she likes coffee and tea. she'll have a spurt of energy for about 5 minutes, and then she'll be asleep for the next few hours. But she's still in good health, we believe. Although she was sick for a couple of nights. She kept waking in the middle of the night and puking up. And we were getting a bit worried. But because she's got a few little lumps on her belly now, which we've had them checked out, and they're not cancerous at the moment. But she's very loyal. Doesn't run away anymore, which is nice. She had a few little mini adventures all on her own. And we found her each time. She came back. But yeah, gonna miss her when she's gone, that's for sure. Right, Simon. Hopefully it's not a pie disaster. Exactly, pie disaster. With the pie not being in a foil case. It's lost a bit of its structural integrity already because that lid is not fully bonded to the case of the pie. But hopefully, good pie management will overcome that, and we won't lose any pie. We will have to wait and see. George Bonnie 90. Hello, everybody. Good morning, George. Welcome back, sir. Welcome back to the little workshop. And there's not a lot going on at the moment. I mean, I've got lots of projects to get back into. But at the moment, we're just focused on building the platform for the new potting shed. So Andy's I'm doing a lot of stuff outside the workshop these days. Just trying to get everything sorted out. Still got the go-kart project on the cards. Jared said he might need to make it a bit longer because the kids are growing up. Sorry, Jared. And the Triumph the project's frozen. It's on hold. It's been over a year now. Still no parts. So I don't know what's happened with that. If another 6 months pass, I'll have to just take it back to the owner and say, look, can't fix it without parts. Find somebody else. It must have done about 20 kilometers, just been pushed in and out of the workshop. It's ridiculous. And the engine's still down in Invercargill in bits. So Stu's getting a little bit grumpy down there because he's got to store all the parts and things. So it's not ideal, to be fair. Simon, it's awesome when you can go to your shed and just find the materials to make things you need. It is. I like to do that. We were rummaging around yesterday, looking for bits of timber. I said, look, before we start doing the next stage on the framework, let's see what timber we've got so we can plan what we're going to use where. And we were really short of 50mm by 100mm section, so that would be classed as a 2x4, I suppose. Yes, 2x4 in Old English. And I was thinking, have we got enough? And then I noticed that Ben had used some to brace the tin shed, and there's still a wooden frame inside the silver shed that we're going to be moving, and it needs to be in it to be able to move it whichever the tractor, which is how we moved it. It just lifted it up. But I didn't want to steal any of that framing because we're going to need that to be in place when we move it into its final location. So we had a rummage around, and I got this flash of Alaska, the last frontier, Otto, looking around his boneyard for various bits and pieces to make something. And that's exactly that's exactly how I operate. When we were back in the UK, I would often just, rather than just go, right, I'll design something and then make it, I often go, I wonder if there's something that's sort of similar to what I need that's already that I can adapt. And I'll wander around and find something that's, that would work if I did make it like this. And it would save a lot of time. And it was a really good way of doing it. And it, end of the day, recycling stuff, right? But to do that, you have to have a lot of stuff. And I'm still in the process of accumulating that level of stuff here in New Zealand. And it's a lifetime thing. You just, you look at stuff and go, am I going to throw this away? I don't want to throw it away because I could use that for something. It looks useful and it's still got life in it. I need to keep that. And this is the problem. We need more and more storage to accommodate that. Hoarding, I suppose you would call it. But hoarding with a purpose, not just hoarding for the sake of hoarding, like newspapers and things. I don't understand that. But steel and stuff, don't like to throw it away. The Real Daz, 0-3. They aren't too bad from memory, those pies. if they're going to take that much effort in making a box look as good as this box looks, and the presentation of the pie, they're really proud of that pie. Either that or they've got a wickedly good marketing team selling crap. But my opinion is, benefit of the doubt, the box looks fantastic. It's joyous, there's comedy in it, it's well styled, it's not too serious. It gets the message across, and it's highly distinctive. I mean, nobody else has a pie box that looks anything like that here in New Zealand. I like it, and I'm hoping, and I see no reason why not, the pie should be of a similar standard, because they're proud of it. They're proud of their pies. That's the undertone here. So we'll see the real dance. We will. Connor K, not sure if you mentioned earlier. Did you see the final Top Gear Grand Tour thing? Yes. That was. I just thought of that before I read your comment, actually, Connor. We did watch it. I think I mentioned before, I was in two minds whether to put off watching it, knowing it was the last one, and to save that for future, because then you can still look forward to watching it. But then I started to see little snippets of video and comparisons and stuff on Facebook, and I was like, this is a bit of a spoiler. I need to watch it now so that I get the full, I can immerse myself in it and get the full benefit. So Mrs. Mechanic and I, good English, Andy, good English, watched it. It would have been after, the Sunday that we had the last live stream, actually, I think it was. Yes, because Ben had gone. Ben was down. He'd gone back. Remind me about his ute. Got to talk. It's a really funny story about his ute and its warrants. So remind me about that, because I'll only forget. But in a nutshell, yes, it was very long. It was good that it was very long, because it was a finale. Very bittersweet was probably the way to put it. Great to see the lads out enjoying themselves. Really enjoyed the episode, as always, the adventure. Could it have been any better? Things can always be better, but it was great. It was really good. The ending was extremely sad. If you've not seen it yet, I don't want to give you any spoilers, but you should have already watched it by now. I think most of the world has. But it did leave the question. A lot of viewers have said, there might be another one. A reunion. Who knows? We can only live in hope. But a phenomenal end to such an epic journey for the three lads. And I'm not talking about just that particular adventure. Their journey through journalism, TV, and all the fun and joy that they've given so many people in the world. And they've done a lot for the automotive industry, and just to keep our interest in cars. And Clarkson was right, Again, I don't want to give a spoiler alert away, but he mentioned his opinion of electric cars, EVs, and he just hit the nail on the head. He absolutely did. The world is a changing place, and I feel really sorry and sad for the next generation, even for Ben, for my kids, that they're now getting this. They're not going to really, Ben has a bit, yes, but they're not really going to experience as much as I have the joys of internal combustion engine vehicles. It's very quickly being taken away from them. And that's a very good segue, actually, onto Ben's warrant, believe it or not. So Ben came down a couple of weeks ago to do some repairs to his ute to get it through the warrant of fitness, and they'd failed it on quite a lot of stuff, and normally it doesn't fail. Normally, maybe on one item, because it's actually in really good nick for its age. But for some reason, when he took it for the warrant this time round, they were extremely stringent. Now, it doesn't look like a normal vehicle, I call it Ben's Fred Dibner truck, okay? So it's got all these racking put on it. It's very purposeful. It's been sprayed with bed liner for your tray, so it's really thick, gloopy, a bit like under seal, but it dries really hard. And the warrant guy, they spent a long time underneath it with the torches, and this isn't just one warrant guy. He brought other warrant guys across to get their opinion, and they were looking underneath trying to find fault, which was really annoying. And one of the warrant guys then he took it upon himself, which is a really good way of putting it, to then on one of the A posts, the driver's side A post at the bottom, the paint was a little bit rippled. You know, it probably run a little bit because it's such thick paint. He decided then to get a knife and scrape the paint off Ben's car to see the steel underneath on an A post, really visible. I mean, okay, on a chassis, maybe probably get away with it, but you know, on the outside of a car to start attacking somebody's car with a knife and start scraping off the paint. It's like, what the hell are you playing at, mate? They're not allowed to do that. It's an inspection. They can only look at stuff. I mean, sure, they test the brakes and things, but they aren't allowed to disassemble the vehicle or affect the vehicle in any way. It states it very, very clearly in the VERM, which is the Bible, the rules for warrant of fitness. I used to be a warrant of fitness guy for many years here in New Zealand, and I know exactly what they are allowed and not allowed to do. And they scraped the paint back, and underneath, the metal was a little bit rusty, just surface rust, nothing major, nothing structural, just surface. And he failed it. He went, nope, that's a fail. There is rust on the A-pillar, not allowed. And he failed it for it. So Ben took the vehicle to a structural engineer, and he had to get an official document from a structural engineer's opinion, stating that there was nothing wrong with the A-pillar, which he got. It cost him $50, which was fantastic. But it was a palaver getting it done. And then he had to repaint the A-pillar, you know, and it's like extra expense. He shouldn't have to do that. I was going to take it up with a warrant inspection place, and I'm still in two minds. I really should. I mean, he's got it. So anyway, he went back, did all this work. One of the things it failed on was imbalanced rear brakes. And I said to him, because they had it was VTNZ. I'm name and shame. It was VTNZ, right? And the brakes are tested on a rolling road. And the rear brakes were like 20, I think it was 28% in balance, and the minimum is 20%. So they failed it on that. And sure enough, they were right to fail at that because one of the wheel cylinders was leaking. So he'd fitted a new wheel cylinder, fitted new brake shoes. He'd heated the drums up to burn out any brake fluid that had got into the drums, give them a good sand, popped them back on, adjusted them up, job as a carrot. Took it back for the warrant, not yesterday, the Saturday before, and they failed it again. They failed it on rear braking balance. That was the only thing it failed on, just rear braking balance. They even made him fit mud flaps to the vehicle. The vehicle's never had mud flaps. Since the day it was born, it's never had mud flaps. It's never needed mud flaps. I never realised that mud flaps were a warrant thing. Maybe it's something that's come in recently, since I stopped doing warrants. But anyway, took it in, it failed. And over the road was a friend of his that runs a workshop. So he popped in to go and see this chap. And he was telling him, Bertie, I think his name, he was telling him about the problem that he had. He was pretty pissed off, to be fair, so he was having a bit of a rant. And there was this South African there, and Ben described him as a massive bloke. Ben's a big lad, but he made Ben look like probably a little Lego model, you know? And this guy was like, nah, that's not on, we're not having this. And he stormed across the road with the warrant ticket and told Ben, get back in the queue for a retest. So Ben got back in the queue. While he was queuing to get the vehicle retested, which is free, he clambered underneath the vehicle and readjusted the rear brakes. And I thought, well, that won't make a lot of difference because it's hydraulic pressure. It's nothing to do with the adjustment. Anyway, he went under there. I taught him how to do it. Adjust them up till they're tight and then back them off three clicks. And that should be enough clearance. So he did both sides again, the same. And this South African guy, when Ben's vehicle got ready for the test, it was in line, it was there ready. They were starting to do the retest. He got hold of the lad. He says, right, who was it that failed it on the rear brakes? And it was me, mate. He tore that bloke a shred. He not physically, but verbally, absolutely laid into the bloke. There were so many profanities. Ben felt quite embarrassed, but this bloke did not hold back one iota. He absolutely slammed this guy. And he said, if that doesn't pass this time around, it's going to really really hurt. And he meant it. It was a threat. Anyway, it wasn't Ben that was threatening the guy. It was this bloke from over the road. And anyway, they retested it and it passed. And it passed on its own merits. But Ben was absolutely amazed that this bloke that he never even knew had come across to defend him. And, Ben watched the little needles and they went up together and they came down together. So officially it was a pass. But I suspect that the guy that was doing the retest on the brakes, which was the same guy, didn't press the brake pedal quite as hard as he maybe did the previous time. And you don't need to. You don't have to do it until the wheels lock up. You've just got to see, a reasonable braking effort, where the brakes remain in balance through that travel, through that braking force. So Ben rang us up because he told us it had failed the second time. And then he rang us up and said, "You're not going to believe what just happened, Dan." So he told us the story, and it was like, good on that bloke. I don't even know the South African bloke's name, to be honest, but Ben was saying he was massive. He's the one of the very few guys that Ben would not want to get on the wrong side of. He was just enormous. So good on him. If you are him, and I don't know the names. If you are him, thank you very much. Because the inspection on older vehicles now, here in New Zealand, seems to be ridiculously stringent. Almost to the point where they're trying to force those older cars off the road. And that's completely unfair. That's Ben's little truck. It's done him proud for the last 9-10 years. It's been a great little truck. He's done hundreds of thousands of kilometers in it. And it's been really, really good. And he saved up for that. And he pays good money and he fixes it himself to keep it roadworthy. And for what that guy did, scraping the paint off, was totally wrong, in my opinion. In fact, it was just totally wrong. He was not allowed to do that at all. What they are allowed to do is to say, "I'm not happy with this area of the body. You need to take it away. The customer, needs to remove the paint or have the paint removed. Bring it back with the paint removed, and we'll inspect it with the paint off, and then you can repaint it." Or in this case, Ben went off and got a structural engineer's report done on it for $50. It's cheap as chips, but it shouldn't have been that cheap. Again, he knows people, which is good. It's all about who you know these days. So he was so happy that he got his warrant, because there was one day in Auckland, it was pouring with rain, and he was working at a particular bike shop that he can't take his motorbike. He can't store it in the shop, and he doesn't feel that he can leave it outside because it probably gets stolen, to be fair. He couldn't go in his ute because it had no warrant. Didn't want to go on the motorbike. He cycled to work in the pouring rain, about 8 kilometers, about 20 minutes cycle time for him to get there. And I'd rung him up and found out this, and I said, and I was in the traffic heading back south again in the ute, and I said, and it was pouring down, absolutely, and it was really windy. I said, "Whereabouts are you? Which shop are you at now?" And he told me. I said, "You're only 15 minutes away. I'll come and get you. I'll give you a lift home. We'll put your bike in the back of the ute, tray's empty, and I'll take you home." And he was over the moon. He was so happy that I'd done that for him. It took us like 3 times as long to get back to his house because of all the traffic. Much faster on a bicycle. But he was dry and he was safe. So that's what dads do, right? Where do we get? I heard the pie. We'll give it a minute. Now then. Here we go. Wait a minute. Technology exists to convert coal plants to nuclear as a cost savings of land acquisition and infrastructure build, stroke connection. Very technical, thank you. I'm hopeful that the new liquid fuel units find wider acceptance. I don't know if they'd ever plan to convert Huntley to an alternative fuel source. Fueling. I don't know what their plans are. This is New Zealand, don't forget, so they're probably just going to keep using coal. The real dares. Have you seen the Top Gear Australia one? I haven't yet, but want to. Now, one of the lads out of Mighty Car Mods is now doing the Australian Top Gear. I did watch one. I was in a hotel. There was bugger all on telly, and I just came across it. I'll watch this. And it wasn't that bad. I mean, my opinion is when you view the Australian Top Gear or any other country for that matter, because there were a few variants out there. They're trying to franchise it out. Um, you've got to go in, just view it as a car show. Don't think it's going to be like the Top Gear that we know, because it won't be. All you'll do is find fault, and it'll never ever attain the same level of viewer satisfaction that the three lads did. But if you watch it as a car show and you get to know the three characters, it's not too bad. It's definitely watchable. It's definitely, in my opinion, entertaining. But don't think of it as Top Gear. Just think of it as a car show. That's the best advice that I can give. And then I think you won't be disappointed. You'll just go, oh, that was all right. You know, that's it. I remember when I was watching Top Gear, I'll be glued to the telly and I won't want to go out of the room and make a coffee or whatever. When I was watching the Australian one, it didn't really bother me. You know, I'd be doing some emails. I'd go out of the room for a bit, make a coffee or whatever. But it was still entertaining. They still did stuff which was funny. You know, at least I found it funny. Now then, Simon, the end of the Grand Tour. It was quite emotional. It was. I actually welled up. Mrs. Mechanic's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. The joys of a ported two-stroke. Absolutely. The Real Daz 03. I had the same problem at VTNZ with braking balance. It's a joke. There was nothing wrong with them. I've said to Ben, when you go for a warrant with your ute, don't take it to one of these big mainstream places because there are ulterior motives with them. I used to work at one, not VTNZ, a comparable place, which was a drive-in, drive-out warrant place. It was yellow in colour. You can guess. It was made up of 2 letters, not 4. And I was told, so the manager on the site, when you got to about 1 o'clock, lunchtime-ish, and you were all taking your breaks at staggered times, because we never closed for lunch. Things kept on trucking. We will be told you've passed too many vehicles, or you've failed too many vehicles. This is the honest truth. This is what I was told. I don't work there anymore, and I only work there part-time. So there's an average, a national average failure rate. And this particular company I worked for would try to adhere to that national average. So if you just happen to have cars come through in the morning, which were all in pretty good nick, and they all passed the warrant, the pressure was put on to fail more cars in the afternoon, to find fault and to fail them. So we could keep our average failure rate within the tolerance accepted, or the norm, The problem is, if you pass too many cars and your failure rate is too low, it'll get flagged in the system with the government, NZTA, and they will come down and do an inspection and they'll look at your documents. And they don't want that. So they try to steer the outcome. And that to me was fundamentally flawed. I did not accept it. I inspected each car on its own merit, and if it passed, it passed. If it failed, it failed. That was it. And I would not be influenced by management whatsoever, which, in my opinion, was the right way to go, because as a warrant inspector, it states very clearly in the VERM, the Bible, that it's your decision and nobody else can influence that, whether it's management or other warrant inspectors. You have to decide. Sure, you can ask the opinion of another warrant inspector, but ultimately the decision is yours and you carry the 100% responsibility of that pass or that failure. So I stopped working there. I said, I don't need to work here anymore. I'm not prepared to accept this regime, this influence that's been propagated across the staff. Not for me. See you later. And I think that's probably what was going on when Ben went for his warrant. I don't know. you can't prove anything, can you, these days? Pete Woodfine. Andy, I would bill the bloke for the repaint. I was going to put in a formal complaint. We would have won. They are not allowed to scratch the paint off your car to look to see what's underneath. They're not allowed to do that. There is strict procedure that they have to follow. They can fail it on suspected corrosion, and then it has to go off and get inspected. Then you come back with, the inspection sheet that's signed by a qualified engineer, and they have to accept it. Or you can take it back with the paint taken off, and they'll view it. But it's just bullshit. It really is. Simon, did you have a cider with the last Grand Tour? I did, Simon. I drank the Hawkstone cider that you sent me, and I only sipped it. I made it last almost the whole episode, the whole adventure. I just sipped it, almost like it was a liquor, Very nice. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you again very much. It was great to have that drink to accompany watching the last episode ever. Much appreciated. It really is. I meant to include that in my story, so my apologies, I forgot. The real dance, I ended up taking it somewhere else, and it passed with flying colours. So what I was saying earlier on, as I said, Ben, don't take it to a mainstream warrant and fitness inspection place like the AA or VTNZ or others. Take it to a rural warrant of fitness, a rural garage that does warrant of fitness, because they usually don't, and you can check, most of them don't have rolling roads because they're expensive to put in. They have, I think it's called a tacheometer or decelerationometer thing. I can never pronounce it. And it's basically a little device. You put it in the footwell of the car, you go for a road test, you slam on the brakes. If the front brakes are badly imbalanced, the car will pull to one side anyway, so there's an imbalance. Otherwise, if the rear brakes are a bit imbalanced, it's very hard to tell most of the time. But the decelerometer will tell you how quickly the car can slow down, the rate of deceleration under hard braking, and it will just pass. The brakes have got to be really, really bad to fail that test. And he's like, "Oh, that's a good idea." I says, "I'm sure, up around, you might have an hour's drive to get there, and you might have to go during the week." But I said that the rural garages, when they do the warrant fitness inspections, are far more used to the vehicles in worse condition. You're taking it to a city-based inspection place. All they ever see are city-type cars. Yours isn't a city-type car. Yours is more in line with something that would be operated in the wop-wops on a farm. It's going to be covered in shit. It's going to be well used, but they'll assess it relative to that environment. And chances are everything will be just fine, Does it go forwards and backwards and the brakes work? Yes. There's your warrant, basically. Then there's no way they're going to start scratching paint off. Now then, where we get to... Simon, all councils in the UK have an MOT station open to the public that don't do repair work. I've never been to one, but that would be an honest test. Yes. I don't know about VTNZ, I think they do as well. A few years ago, the warrant of fitness, it was always a year. On a new car, it was always 3 years on a new vehicle. And from that point on, it was always a year inspection. After the 3 years is up, you get it warranted, and then it's 1 year after that every time. And then they brought a ruling in where if the car is over a certain age, it has to have a warrant of fitness every 6 months. Ben's Ute, unfortunately, falls in that category, and he has to get it warranted every 6 months. It's ridiculous. It really is. In Australia, as I understand it, you only have to get a warrant of fitness done in your vehicle when it changes ownership. Much better. And there's no warrant of fitness done when the vehicle is initially put on the road. The same in the UK. No warrant, no MOT on a new car, but 3 years old, that's when it gets its first MOT. But here in New Zealand, you've got to do a warrant of fitness on the brand new car, and it's valid for 3 years. It's a funny system, really, to be honest. But yeah, I believe the AA and VTNZ both now do servicing and minor repairs to your car. And they've done that to try and keep their income levels up, because they're officially they're doing less warrants, because a lot of the cars that were 6 months, sorry, confusing, then went to a year warrant. It was a bit weird, but overall they were doing less warrants because there's a lot less cars on the road that have to have a 6-month warrant now than they used to be. That's the reason. So most cars are a year, and obviously with all the EV cars that have gone out in the last 3 years, they're not doing any warrants on those, because normally the warrant on the new car is done by the dealership that sells it, so they're not seeing that income. Yeah, so they started to do servicing and stuff. And there was one of them, it was bizarre. There was an advert went out on TV and they said, bring your car in for a service. And on the advert, in small text at the bottom, excludes engine oil and filter change. What the hell? That's like the most important part of having your car serviced. That's the pinnacle of the focus of having your car serviced, is change the engine oil and filter. That's the one thing that you do. Doesn't matter what level of service you do. That's the one thing you do. And they weren't doing it. It was just ridiculous. It really was. Andy, don't forget the pie. Good point. Let's go and get the pie. I'm hungry. Turn you around, 3, 2, 1. Boom! We are an hour and 16 minutes in. Mrs. Mechanic's going to kill me. We've got work to do. She wants to get a potting shed base finished today. Holy moly. Right. The pie. Let's focus. We've got a job to do, Andy. We've got to review this pie. It feels a bit soft. Be careful with this one. Okay, we're going to need to... In fact, I'll put it on the plastic, because the bench is not the cleanest thing in the world. Right, turn you on, 3, 2, 1, boom. There we go. That should work. Hopefully, it'll fall off the bench. Right. Guys, there we are. Okay. The pie. Here we go. It is a bit soft. You can see there's a bit of... It's quite... You can see there, look, quite a lot of deflection. Now that's the bit where I'm not going to deliberately damage it, but this is the area here where the lid has detached from the side. Quick structural check post thermal injection, or thermal exposure. There you go, look. Come up with all these weird names, don't we? Oh, it nearly fell out of my hand. Right, that's good. The base is good. We've obviously got puff pastry on. Oh, there you are. Look, you can see there, look. It's just complete. You can see the contents. And the top is still pretty good, to be fair. Okay, so we're going to start at the failure point. Oh man, it's failed in 2 places. That's why it's so floppy. We've got a failure point there and around this area here. So not ideal. And we've got a little crack just developing here as well on the side. This is definitely a 2-handed pie. Now, for those that have just joined us, we are reviewing the I Love Pies Angus beef steak and rosemary pie. We've never done this one before. 200 grams, by the way. It's a standard size pie for New Zealand. It's 200 grams. So we're going to go in, and I'm going to start around that area there. 2 hands, don't forget, on this kind of pie. Oh, you can really taste the rosemary. Okay, there you go, look. First bite. We've got a bit falling off there, look. Not ideal. We'll go in for the second bite and consume that. It's hot. It's just not too hot. I think if I go right for the middle now, I burn my mouth. So we've got perfect pie temperature, because you don't want it to be cold by the time you get to the end of it. Okay, we'll do the manly thing. The heart is just starting to fall off, so don't want it to fall on the floor. There you go. We'll get rid of that. That was nice. That was really tasty. It wasn't dried. It was quite, I would say, almost gooey pastry, but it was cooked. It was nice. That was, let me get that on a pie. I think they should get a bonus point for that one. Okay, we've got more stuff about to fall off here. Look, a bit more of the lid, so I think we'll go in there. Okay, I think I've stabilized the pie. Good pie management skills there. The pastry tastes really good, actually. I do like the taste of the pastry. Okay, not really had much contents yet, so we'll just save that one. Structure Foley Partners, I'm going to save that because things could still go wrong. Runnability test, we can do that. It's at its hottest temperature. Now this one doesn't have any cheese in it. I tend to find that hot cheese acts as a lubricant and it tends to make the contents more flowy. So we should be good with this. So 45 degrees, that's about 45 degrees, isn't it? For probably a bit over actually. 30 seconds, I don't see any kind of movement whatsoever. So as regards the contents, it's rock solid. That's really, really good. Okay, I'm happy with that. There was no movement, no need to stay there the whole 30 seconds. It's good. So this is Angus beef. So what I'm expecting as a consumer is some large chunks of beef, not little tiny pieces like mince. We will see. I'm actually enjoying eating the pastry. It's great. Okay, so meat quality. It's still too early to tell. I've not had a big chunk of meat yet. So let's keep moving on. Pie to crust ratio. So the volume of pastry versus the volume of contents. And you can see on this particular pie, despite it being a bit floppy, we've got quite thick quite thick sidewalls on the pie, both sides here. Look, one here as well. The base, you see, again, the base is quite floppy, but it's almost 5mm thick as well. And if you look really closely, the base, you can see two types of pastry, or maybe it's just the cooking point, but you've got quite hard pastry for the first couple of mil, and then the rest of it is quite gooey pastry. So that's not, in fact, it's even separated. You can see there, look, there was a little air gap. You see just on this side here, look, just under there, there's like an air gap. It's like two separate layers of pastry. It's most bizarre. Okay, we've got meat. Very strong on the rosemary. Okay, meat quality. It's pretty good. I'm going to give it... Bear with me. Yeah, look, there's another piece of meat hanging off the side there. I'm going to give it... I'm going to give it an 8, which might sound a little bit high, but we will reserve judgment. We've got to start putting the numbers down. So meat quality 8. Pie to crust ratio. There's a lot of pastry. There really is. There's a lot of thickness to the pastry, so there's not so much of a cavity left for the meat itself. So that's going to score down, unfortunately. So I'm going to give it a 6 for that one. Okay. Availability short logistics. Well, this was in a new world, and there are new worlds all over New Zealand. So with it being a supermarket, you can buy them online as well. They're not available to be eaten when you purchase. You've got to take them home and cook them yourself. Oh, we've got a little crack in the base where my thumb's just about to go through. Got to be careful. So, and they're not really sold in dairies and stuff, corner shops. They're more supermarket-based pies, and you've got to cook them yourself. So they're not really applicable to a road trip. And road trips and pies, or pies, are a fundamental part of doing a road trip here in New Zealand. It's what you do. You drive somewhere, and on the way you pick up a pie and a coffee. That's just, it's culture here in New Zealand. Most people do it. Sure, the odd person might buy a sausage roll, but the sausage rolls taste nothing like they should do. But that's their choice. I now go for a pie rather than a UK sausage roll. So availability, I'll give them an 8. They're not everywhere. Okay. Oh, pastry taste rating. Well, this is going to score really high on that. We'll go for another bite. It's weird. It's it's not dry at all, right? It's far from dry, which is really good. But you get that little bit of a crunch when you first go in, and you can see here, look, that bit that just fell off. You can see those 2 layers of pastry. I've never seen this on a pie before. So they've really gone to town in designing the pie to give you that nice crunch when you bite into it, but to also give you the real tasty, gooey pastry as well. That's just incredible attention to detail on pie design. Okay. I would say that this is one of the best pies I've ever had for the taste of the pastry. It hasn't been seasoned. There's no exterior seasoning going on. Just the pastry itself tastes really good. And I don't think it's the rosemary aspect affecting it. I'm really getting a lot of pastry flavor as well. And it just feels nice in your mouth as well, you know. So I'm gonna give them, holy shit, I'm gonna have to give them a 10. I mean, if I don't give them a 10, who the hell can I give a 10? Packaging design. Well, I'm a massive fan of this package. To be honest, it's quality. It feels good. I know it, and of course, this is recyclable. It's only cardboard, right? They've given us a window. The window is shaped where you're going to like this. You're going to really love this pie. There's a lot of artwork on there that somebody's been drawing. You see all the little happy chappies and stuff and the stars. You know, it's all very joyous and fun. And, you know, I just like the style of it. It's very New Zealand. Very New Zealand. And of course, the pie itself is still sealed in a plastic bag. So they're not going to get 100% recyclable because the plastic bag, I don't think, is... Have a quick look. Is there any mention of recyclableness? Ah, here we go. Recyclable. Yes. There we go. Look, so they tell you in basically they say that the cardboard box is fully recyclable and the bag isn't. See the little dustbin symbol there? The bag, or the film they call it, has to be put in the bin. So they will lose marks for that. So packaging design, I'm going to give them, well, it's got the window, it's got all the information, there's some really nice text on there. They spent a long time designing that and getting it signed off. Somebody's cared about it. I'm going to give them a 10. I don't think we get any better than that. Recyclable score, I'm going to knock them 2 marks off because the bag can't be recycled. And there's plenty of materials out there now, plant-based plastics and stuff, which could be recycled. They could change the material of the bag and get the full mark. So they're only going to get 8 for that one. Okay. Let's go back. Taste, stroke, flavour, contents. One more bite and we'll decide on that. Rosemary again. Mrs. Mechanic's up. Well done, honey. It's pretty good. We've had better pies as regards the contents. I'm going to give them a 7. And it might sound a bit low, but I'm going to give them a 7. We've definitely had better. And what I'm saying here is, if you look very carefully, you can see there's quite a lot of what I call filler, which is like gravy stuff, like a really congealed gravy filler. There's basically means that they don't need to put quite so much meat in there to fill it up. So if there was more meat, it would taste better, I think. Okay. Now, structure falling partners. It's getting to be quite a mess, this pie. There's a lot of bits hanging off. It's quite jagged. The bench there's quite a lot of pastry on the bench. And in my coffee, actually. A lot in my coffee. God damn it. Oh, my cold coffee. So we saw failures right at the start before we cooked it. We saw more failures once it was cooked. And it's always been a two-handed pie, which is always a bad sign for a pie because there's no way you want to eat this while you're driving. Not that I'd ever endorse that. But, if you were holding a coffee and you had to eat your pie, you're going to have a problem with this pie. You've got to be dedicated to this one. So, it's pretty bad. We've had a lot worse, don't get me wrong. I'm sort of going between 5 and 6 here. I think 5. It's disappointing. We'll go for 5. You'd expect a pie of this quality for them to be a bit more structurally integral and certainly be a one-handed pie. You're paying the money. These things are not cheap. I don't quite remember what it was, but it's not cheap. Okay. Now, runnability, we scored that. That was 10. No problems with the runnability. Post pie heartburn, nothing yet. Actually going down really, really well. So I'll give it a 10 for now. Pie server attractiveness. Now, it was a lady that served us. Very helpful. Smiley. I would say mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s, but who cares? Well presented. I would give her, she was quite, how are you today? All that kind of thing. Meet and greet. She packed the bag. It was all right. So we'll give her an 8. It was a nice experience. Yes, it was a supermarket, all right, but it was a nice experience. Right, the last bite, and then we can do stuffability score. Here we go. Quick scan at the camera. That's it. It's all that's left. So it's quite a bit cooler now than it was. And the rosemary flavour, because it's quite strong, tastes a bit weird when it's cold. Tastes really nice when it's hot and, at pie temperature. But a bit weird when it's cold. So, would I eat that pie cold? Let's say I found it in my glove box of the ute, maybe 2 or 3 days after I purchased it. Assuming we've already warmed it up. Because I'd never eat a pie that hasn't been warmed up, just to be on the safe side. I would eat it. Would I enjoy it? Still tasty when cold is the criteria. It's not going to get a 10. It would be all right. I'd give it a 6. So, still tasty when cold. There we are, 6. I think that's a fair score. I mean, obviously, it wasn't stone cold, but it didn't taste anywhere near as nice on that last bite as it did on the first few. Okay, the only score left to do is stuffability score. Now, we know it's a standard size pie at 200 grams. We've lost one. Post pie heartburn is now 9. Apologies. It was the pie. Am I suitably satisfied with the volume? Or am I still hungry? Or do I feel a bit overfull and lethargic? No, I actually feel good. I feel fine. I don't feel hungry anymore, and I don't feel stuffed. So they get a 10. Well done. Standard size pie should do that. I mean, if you're going to go and buy a pie that's 240 grams and you're used to eating a pie that's 200, then you're probably going to feel stuffed. You can't hold that against the pie. You chose to buy it. So this one at 200 grams, I feel fine, not hungry at all. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All the scores are in. Let's get it tallied up. Turn you around. 3, 2, 1. Boom! Right. Here we go. I think this is... I think it's amazing that we're still able to find pies. There we go, look. That we haven't done yet. There's just so many pies in New Zealand. Okay. 12, 22, 30, 36... 44, 54, 60, 70, 78, 87, oh my word, 97, 105. Holy crap. 105. Sorry, the cardboard's getting a bit old. It's years and years old, is this cardboard. Right, so that's the pie. We still don't have any magnetic strips. My sincere apologies. We will have soon. We'll just get one of these sorted out. We'll stick him down there. And this is I Love Pies. And we'll put a little heart on it. What the hell? Right, why not put a heart on there? Look. Since we've got a red pen. I Love Pies. And it's an Angus. Beef, steak, jeez, oh my word, and rosemary. Got it right small. And we got 105, 105, a very high score actually, very, very good. Let's see where it lost most of its marks. Well, it didn't, did it? Structure Foley Partners, that was the worst. That was the lowest score of all. Can they fix that? I don't know. Having that sort of dual layer pastry could be, you know, a structural problem, but it was very tasty. It worked. Still tasty when cold. Rosemary, they maybe tone that down a bit and use a bit less filler because the filler tends to detract when it's cold from the taste. Other than that, pretty good. You know. Meat quality 8. It was meat quality was all right. It could be better, to be fair. Right, but there wasn't that much of it. Okay, we have the strip. Let's go back over to the board and see where it ends up. Because time is of the essence. We are running over time, as always. Okay, 105. Where the hell will that end up? Oh my word. Look at that, a third from the top. Jeez. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just for now, is move that up. I'll do this off camera later on. Move that one up. And in fact, I need to move, I can't do that, can I? I need to move those down a bit. Bear with me, people. So we'll just move him, we'll leapfrog him down there. And then we can stick that, camera, Andy, camera, right next to South Main Auto. Morning, Eric. Stick it in there. There we go. Now I will be getting some more magnetic strips. They're on order. I haven't been back to Auckland yet to pick them up, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for those. Stick that back on there, look. There we go. So very surprising. I didn't think it was going to score as high as it did, but there's still room for movement. If they can make that pie fix the structural problem, and there was nothing wrong with it really when it came out of the bag, apart from one little bit of the lid lifting up, but it changed when it got cooked. If they can fix that, there were only three more points, and it would have been the best pie we've ever had. What the hell? That's incredible. And don't forget, maximum score is only 130, so it's doing pretty well. Okay, back to the bench. Here we go. Go turn you around. 3, 2, 1, boom. There we go. Big sausage fingers. Luckily we got that right. Okay, so the pie is done. I was quite pleasantly surprised with that pie. It was actually pretty good. But there were bits that weren't pretty good. There was the odd bit that could be a lot better. But anyway, That's all right. Gives a bit more to aspire to. I don't know whether the pie companies watch these reviews or not. Who knows? We have done pies in the past where we've reviewed it twice, and for some reason, second time around, it seems to do a bit better usually. So maybe they do. Maybe they take my thoughts into, they're all there in the board meeting discussing Andy's pie review, and we need to do better, lads. We need to aspire to be better, and let's focus on the points that Andy's brought up. Who knows? Maybe they do. Oh my word, there's a million comments. Okay, we're going to scroll back up and try and find them. So Simon of the councils. That's a really good idea, actually, having the independent warrant stations. VTNZ and the AA used to be independent. They didn't used to do any repairs on vehicles, and that in itself meant there was no bias. But not anymore. JJ, put in the complaint, Andy. Yeah, I really should. Because we'll win. We will definitely win. But given the circumstance of our South African friend, obviously a friend now, going across and verbally abusing a particular inspector, I don't want to get him into trouble through an investigation. If there was an investigation, it would be right from start to finish of the inspection until the vehicle's passed, potentially, and it might highlight maybe some other problems. So sometimes it's better to just walk away and not try and fix the world. I know it's, morally, yes, the guy should be dragged over the coals. But what would really happen to him? He'll just get, oh mate, just don't do that again. That's all that will happen, right? He's not going to lose his warrant license for it. What I could do is, rather than bring it to the attention of VTNZ and allow them to deal with it internally, I have contacts that I deal with on a regular basis at government level in NZTA who oversee warrant of fitness standards. They're the management team, right? They're the guys in charge. Lady and a gentleman. Get on with them both very, very well and respect what they say, and they understand where I'm coming from. If I was going to put in a complaint, I would take it straight to that level, because then the whole VTN site would basically have a bomber fly over the top and be absolutely obliterated. The first thing that would happen is a site inspector would go down and go through all of the inspections with a fine-tooth comb, basically an audit, and they would probably interview each of the inspectors about the particular case, because most of them were involved in some way or another. That sounds a good way of doing it, doesn't it? So watch this space. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Ultimately, I think Ben has to have the decision here. It's his vehicle. If he wants me to, I will. If he doesn't want me to, I won't. JJ, I have a Lexus. Is it IS? Yes, IS 200. And a first generation RAV4. We used to have one of those. It only ran on 3 cylinders because one of the valves had burnt out, but it was brilliant. And then we'll try they will try very hard to fail them each time the WOF is due. I know, it's such a shame, isn't it, really? You want to run these older cars because they're simpler and cheaper to fix and probably more reliable. But they're just making it hard. Really hard. John Nuttall, don't forget the pie, Andy. Thank you, John. I did read that one out earlier on pre-pie. Appreciate the heads up. Had forgotten, as I usually do. JJ, the station I go to is an ex-VTNZ, which is now rebranded to a Safe Drive branded station. Not heard of them. The staff there are still the same guys that, yes, but different management probably, or at least different pressures from above. It does seem to affect the warrant of fitness guys and how they operate. Roger Heaps, good morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Roger. I take it you've not flowed away with all the rain. I was speaking to Jamie, who's the owner of Rogers down in Invercargill, and he was saying it's absolutely pissing it. Was it Jamie or Kevin? Absolutely pissing it down there. So thanks for the photos. Don't drive your tractor in the field for a while. The reason for lots of rules in New Zealand is because of ACC. If we paid our own insurance, there wouldn't be nearly as many rules. That's a very good point. When you buy road tax here in New Zealand, a big chunk of it is that's your license for your car to go on the public road each year. A big chunk of that cost to the driver, to the owner of the vehicle, is an ACC content, which is towards like medical insurance. If there's an accident and you hurt yourself, then that helps to fund the National Health Service, if you want to call it that, if it was England. An insurance on your vehicle, unless it's on hire purchase or on a loan agreement, is not mandatory. You don't have to have insurance. You'd be stupid not to. But you don't have to have insurance to drive a vehicle here in New Zealand. So in order for them to sort of cover themselves from all the injuries and stuff, they load it into the road tax, which is just dumb because motorcycle road tax now has gone through, they call it Regio, has gone through the roof because they say, well, so many motorcyclists need medical care when there's an accident. Well, yeah, but like 2/3 of the motorcycle accidents are caused by car drivers, not the motorcycle. Huh? Maybe it should be there, Reggio, you should be loading up even more because they're the ones driving these big battering rams around. Anyway, Andy's rant over. The Real Dad 03. It's about 2000, I think it started. Yeah, I think you're about right. I know the change, the move from 1 year to 6 month warrants on the older vehicles happened whilst I was after I came to New Zealand. So it would be after 2009 that happened. Because I was like, oh, really? Because I had to learn the new rules and so on. And the system, the land transport system that we used to record the warrant of fitness, sometimes got it wrong. You put in an old car and you knew it predates the changeover date, and the system still gave it a year warrant. And it's like, really? Well, I'm not gonna argue with it. If that's the numbers it gives me, I'll put it on the label and stick it in the car. But you knew full well that car should have only got a 6 month warrant. It was bizarre. I think their database wasn't fully up to date for some reason. Simon, do you have a 40-year-old rule in New Zealand? After 40 years and 30 years of vehicle not being altered, they can be changed to historic and be MOT and tax exempt. There is a similar rule. I think they call it a classic vehicle here in New Zealand. It still requires a warrant of fitness. And of course, the warrant of fitness has to be done based on the standard of the vehicle of that era. You can't apply modern day warrant standards to an old car because it was never designed to attain those standards. There's a reduced regio or road tax cost for a classic vehicle, but it does still have to have a warrant of fitness, definitely. Which is a shame. In the UK rules are, in fact, me and Miss Mechanic were only discussing it the other night, that you can drive a lot of stuff in the UK, or you used to be able to do, that you would never have a hope in hell's chance of driving here in New Zealand. They are much, much more stringent on vehicle types, i.e. you can't ride a quad bike on the road legally unless you're a farmer, and they don't bother to get them registered anyway, and they should. Sorry, Roger, but they should. They should pay Regio, and they should have a warrant of fitness on the vehicle. They don't. And they don't get prosecuted for it. And that really winds me up because in the UK, I used to run a fleet of ATVs, quad bikes, that were all road legal. And they were, we kept them to a high standard. And you could ride all the way through Europe on a quad bike. But in New Zealand, it's absolutely no-no. If you are just a regular person on let's say a Raptor 700 or something, which in the UK you can ride on the road, even though it's only a rear wheel drive solid axle, you can ride it on the road. Here they throw the book at you, probably impound the vehicle. To be fair, it's just diabolical. This place is so controlling when it comes to vehicles. Now, where do we get to? Scroll down. Oh, there's loads. Here we go. Connor K. The people buying EVs, the EV clown cars, I like it. I call them cars, not cars, whenever I see them on the road. Clown cars is even better. Have to get their home electric chargers inspected for proper code installation, or can anyone with a hardware store card and Allen wrench install them? No, because I think the ones that you just plug into a normal mains outlet, a socket, yeah, sure, you can put a screw on the wall, hang your charger on it, and plug it into the wall. You're not affecting the wiring in any way. If it's an installation where it's hardwired to the house wiring, it has to be done by an electrician that's certified to do it. Has to be. That's New Zealand law. So hopefully that clarifies that one. Obviously, if you're just plugging it into a normal power outlet, I think you could have a 15 amp one installed in your garage. Normally they're only 10 amp. It would take a very, very long time to charge your car. In actual fact, there was a guy, was it on Facebook? I think it was on the TV. Must be on Facebook, I think, or maybe YouTube. The guy had an EV. It wasn't a hybrid, it was just an EV. And he put it on charge, plugged it into his normal power outlet in his garage, probably only a 10 amp. And after the car was at 20%, and after 23 hours of charging, it had just reached 80% charge. So don't plan to use your car every day if that's the way you're charging it. Now then, John Nuttall, you do some weird stuff over there. I'm told you cannot buy a pineapple with a crown on it. Why is that? I don't buy pineapples. I didn't know that. No idea. I can't comment. You'll have to Google the crap out of that one. Sorry, John. John goes on to say, will the 5 hit? Will the 5 hit the like button? Let's have a full score today. We're on now. I can only see 1 like at this end. I've got 20 on that screen. Okay, so it hasn't updated on there. So 20 on there. Who knows? If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you don't like the live stream, give us a thumbs down. It's your call. It's very different to my normal videos. So if you just dropped into the channel to watch a live stream, don't think that this is representative of all the other videos on the channel, because it's not. It's just a live stream. It's very different. The real dials, I have a 1999 car and it is 6 months, and have a 2000 car and it's a 1 year. Right. Okay. So the right. Okay. I've got you now. So the changeover point was year 2000 or 1999, whatever. But that didn't come into play until probably 2011, 2012, somewhere around that era, because I didn't get my warrant ticket until 2010, and it changed within a couple of years of me getting warrant inspector authorized, I believe. I'm going from memory. Could be a year or two out, but it didn't happen. It wasn't already in place when I started to be a warrant inspector. That's what I'm trying to say. Here we go. Simon, that's my plan. If I pay per mile road tax ever comes in, buy a 40-year-old van. I think that's a very good idea. Do it, Simon. Old stuff is good stuff, right? Roger Heats, blame ACC again, Andy. Quads are considered unsafe. Where do I start? I haven't got time to rant on about that. All I'll say is, you put your ATV in your garage, you leave it alone. It's the safest thing on the planet. It's a lot safer than an EV. You put that in your garage, it's going to burn down at some point, probably. It's the operator. That's the only thing, the human that's on that vehicle, operating the vehicle, is the thing that makes it unsafe. And if, like in New Zealand, they don't train those people, give them a day's training to familiarize themselves with what the vehicle can and can't do safely, how to drive it, how to use it for towing, all that kind of stuff, then they don't know. And they make mistakes. They do stupid stuff. They put lots of people on the ATVs. But New Zealand isn't the only country to do that. There's plenty of examples. You know, Last Frontier in Alaska thing, they're always transporting 2 people on ATVs, no helmets, that kind of stuff. Do they have an equivalent level of fatalities and injuries because of that? Percentage-wise, the number of ATVs in market, who knows? But it's all about education, training. It's not about, and last point, I'm not going to ramble on forever, but it's come to light. I found out very recently. You know, we were talking about Australia a few years ago, made it mandatory for all ATVs to have ROPS fitted, rollover prevention systems fitted, which basically is a big metal bar at the back of the bike or some kind of flexible hoop, something like that. So if the bike rolls over, it stops the rider from getting squashed if they're still on the bike, right? If they're not on the bike, then it becomes a hazard, especially if it's a metal bar, because it can pin them down to the ground and it's a pressure point and it can puncture through them and it can cause lots of internal damage. Not really a good idea, but anyway, most people do get thrown off quad bikes. They tend not to roll with the quad bike, but that's a whole nother matter. I wasn't involved with the investigation and the study and the reasoning, although I did on a number of occasions write to the government and give them my opinion as a qualified and highly experienced ATV instructor, by the way. The first country, and I forget which one it was now, it was somewhere over near Europe, made ROPS. That was the first country that made ROPS mandatory on ATV sales, on ATVs sold after a certain date, just like Australia. They have now, it's been in place for quite a few years. They've got all the data. It doesn't change the number of fatalities. There's no difference. It doesn't change the number of injuries. It's all still the same. And they've also officially stated that by having one of those systems fitted to the bike, it raises the center of gravity, and the likelihood of the bike rolling over is higher, putting the operator at further risk, additional risk. So they've now officially retracted the requirement to fit ROPS to ATVs. They've backpedaled. They've gone right back and said, actually, it's not a good idea. Australia now has had that ROPS mandatory ruling in place for probably 3 years now, maybe a bit longer. They're now starting to question, actually, is it valid? The same as the first country. Should it actually remain mandatory, or are they going to retract it? Because it hasn't really made any difference. It's just the same number of people are getting injured and killed on ATVs. And it's down to the operators, it's not down to the bike. From a manufacturer perspective, many of the big ATV manufacturers have stipulated quite clearly that their bikes are not designed to have ROPS fitted to them. And if they are fitted to their bikes, it can affect the handling of the bike, and it can also affect the structural integrity of the bike, because the weight of that ROPS system can put additional loading on the chassis, and it builds up a resonance when you're riding along, especially with the metal bars. They go directly vertical, and they're quite high, higher than the rider's head in some cases. They resonate forward. They basically rattle forwards and backwards. They just vibrate forwards and backwards, and that resonance goes down to the rack where they're bolted, and there's no proper mounting points on the rack, so they just have little clamps all over the place trying to spread the load. It can often cause the rack to break because it's not designed for that, and if the rack doesn't break, it can actually transfer that resonance down to the frame of the ATV and cause the frame to fracture. And people don't notice, and then you get frame structural failures, which in themselves can cause accidents. The back end of the bike, the drivetrain could lock up. Suspension components can break off and jam into wheels. There's all sorts of stuff that I've seen. It's really, really bad. So hopefully the New Zealand government will look at this sensibly. They'll look at the data from this first country, Dubai or somewhere it was somewhere out that way, and the Australian data, and make a justified decision and see some sense, and then retract the requirement for, it's only advisory in New Zealand, but to decide that it's not going to be mandatory here in New Zealand, and instead start to encourage and support the training of operators of ATVs, where you can go off and do a day's course and get a ticket, get a certificate to say you've demonstrated good riding practice and you've attained a certain level of skill set. That's exactly what I used to provide in the UK. Whether they will or not, we'll have to wait and see. It's touch and go here in New Zealand. It really is. JJ, don't tell ACC that there are two-wheeled vehicles on the road. Very good. Simon, that's how to make an EV bark. Plug it in and woof, it's up in flames. So many EV jokes. Good job, Simon. Imagine an electric, an EV quad bike. Imagine how dangerous one of those will be. Based on the information in these comments, it would be a death trap. Dear, oh dear. They probably already exist, don't they? John Nuttall, the last comment. Don't talk Australia. They have hook turns. WT flip, are they? Hook turns? What the hell's a hook turn? I don't know what a hook turn is. Google. Hook turn. Hook turn Australia. Performing a hook turn. Whoa! On an intersection. A hook turn or two-stage turn, also known as a Copenhagen left, which is a right, is a road cycling maneuver or a motor vehicle traffic control mechanism in which vehicles that would normally turn from the innermost lane of an intersection instead turn from the outermost lane across all lanes of traffic. Holy crap! Well, we don't have those here. Well, not officially. I'm sure that some drivers try to do that, to beat the lights and cut everybody up. I've seen it once before where they've been in the left lane, which is go straight on. We've been queuing in the right lane to turn right, big long queue, and they've come down the left lane, slowed down to time the lights just right, lights go green, and then floor it and zoom off to the right in front of us all. Very dangerous. But Australia, that's lawful. What the hell? That's ridiculous. Thanks, John. You've enlightened me even further. Okay, crew, we really are at the end. 2 hours. Oh, my word. We really are at the end of this live stream. My apologies for going on for so long. It's been interesting. We've talked about lots of stuff today. I won't do a summary because we'll be here for another 5 minutes. But thank you again for all your contributions in the comments. It always amazes me that we don't get more viewers on these live streams because I think the content, other than having a bit of fun eating a pie, the content actually is pretty important stuff sometimes. You know, I mean, I have quite a in-depth knowledge here in New Zealand of the industry, the automotive industry, and what's going on and warranty fitness and all that kind of stuff. And you guys have similar background knowledge, you know, in your countries. And it's really good to discuss the differences because sometimes, like with your hook turn, there's some really dumb stuff out there, which we need to talk about, you know, educate each other, have a bit of a laugh about it because we're not in charge. We can't control anything. And a lot of people don't even know about it. Maybe they do now. Who knows? Okay, crew, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time, 8:30 a.m. New Zealand time. Apologies for the early start today. New Zealand decided to change the clocks again. I know. Hopefully they'll abolish that one day. Right. I'm off to work. I'll see you later. Cheers. Over and out.